Have you ever walked into a room full of people all talking, all trying to prove something, and thought to yourself, what if I could win this entire room? Without saying a word? Before we go any further, if you've ever felt the pressure to speak louder, work harder, or fight back just to be heard, then this video might change the way you see power forever. So hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and watch this video till the end. Because somewhere, in this story lies the quiet weapon that could transform not just how others see you, but how you show up in your relationships and in your life. Let me take you back. Rome, 180 AD. The air was thick with the scent of firewood, the sound of soldiers training, and politics brewing behind closed doors. The emperor, Marcus Aurelius, wasn't the loudest man in Rome. In fact, he was often silent, observant, calm, and yet, this man controlled one of the most powerful empires in history. His enemies underestimated him, his allies respected him, and his people admired him not because he shouted commands, but because he mastered himself. You see, Marcus had a secret weapon, Stoic philosophy, but what made his mind so sharp was not just his intellect. It was his ability to move without noise, outsmart without ego, influence without pressure. Today I'm going to share 10 Marcus Aurelius-inspired suggestions that will teach you exactly how to outsmart everyone silently and without stress. But first, you need to understand something fundamental about how power works. Control doesn't belong to the loudest voice. It belongs to the calmest presence. We live in a world obsessed with attention. Everyone wants to be seen, heard, validated. But Stoicism teaches us something different. True power comes from mastering the self, not controlling others. Think about it. Have you ever seen someone lose their temper in an argument and instantly lose credibility? Or someone so desperate to prove they're right that they forget how wrong they sound? That's not intelligence. That's emotional chaos. Marcus Aurelius understood this, and what he practiced wasn't silence as weakness, it was silence as strategy. Here are the 10 timeless suggestions based on his Stoic wisdom that will help you outsmart the world quietly and live with less stress, while everyone else is busy trying too hard. 1. Win through presence, not performance. Have you ever loved someone so deeply, so silently, that you never felt the need to prove it with grand gestures or constant words? Just being near them felt like enough. Your presence spoke volumes, and maybe for a while, their presence was your peace. Close your eyes for a moment. Can you remember that one person? Maybe it was your first love, or someone who never knew how much space they took up in your heart. Or maybe you're still trying to let go of someone who didn't stay, even though you never stopped showing up for them in your own quiet way. Now imagine this. What if the power you showed in that love wasn't weakness but wisdom? You see, we've been told all our lives that we need to perform for love, say the right things, do the dramatic gestures, show up big, loud, impressive. But Marcus Aurelius would have said the opposite. He believed in presence over performance, and if you've ever loved someone silently, deeply, without needing to be seen for it, then you already know what Marcus was talking about. When you're secure in who you are, you don't need to perform. You walk into the room and people feel it. You don't chase attention, it lands on you because your energy is grounded. It's in your stillness, your consistency, the way you look someone in the eye and mean it, the way you listen, really listen, without waiting for your turn to speak. You don't need to shout to be heard. You don't need to chase to be chosen. And the people who truly see you, they feel your presence more deeply than any performance could ever communicate. Maybe that's why that one person you once loved still thinks about you, because you didn't try too hard. You didn't need to. You gave them the gift of peace in a world that keeps asking people to try harder to be loved. That's what Marcus meant when he said, the best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury. When someone hurts you, betrays you, underestimates you, you don't need to react to match their energy to scream that you're worthy. You show them through your silence, your growth, your peace. You show them by becoming untouchable, not because you've closed off, but because you've opened up to your own value. And I want you to remember this, especially when love gets hard. Your presence is the most powerful thing about you. It's not in your words, not in your charm, not even in your accomplishments. It's in how you carry yourself when no one is watching. It's in how you love even when it's not returned. That's how you outsmart the world. That's how you rise. Silently, steadily, unshakably. So tell me, who are you thinking of right now? To observe everything. React to nothing. Have you ever loved someone who didn't see the storms inside you? You sat across from them smiling, maybe even laughing, while your heart was silently breaking. And still you said nothing. You observed. You held your emotions like fragile glass, because deep down you were hoping maybe they'd see you without needing to be told. Let me ask you something. Did you ever sit there watching the one you loved slowly drift away and wonder, should I say something? Should I react? Or should I just wait, watch, and see who they become when I stop trying to save it? That is where the strength lies. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Keep a hold on your opinions. Be patient and watch." He wasn't just talking about politics or power. He was talking about the battlefield inside your relationships. He knew that silence isn't weakness. Silence is wisdom waiting. Think back. There was probably a moment when your partner said something that cut deep, but you didn't react. Not because you didn't feel it, but because you were watching, studying, waiting to understand what was really going on beneath their words. Because reacting instantly, that's easy. That's what the world wants you to do. But the one who observes, who listens, breathes, pauses, they win quietly. Let me tell you something most people won't. When you react too fast, especially in love, you often speak from hurt, not truth. You lash out from fear, not clarity. But when you watch, when you hold back just a little longer, something magical happens. People show you who they truly are when you stop interrupting them with your need to be understood. That person you loved, maybe they weren't ready. Maybe they never noticed how much you were holding in, because you were always the one fixing things first, always reacting with love, with forgiveness, with patience. But now you've learned something. You've learned that observing doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care deeply, but you value your peace more. So you wait. You watch how people speak when they think you're not judging. You pay attention to what they don't say in between the lines. You read their silences, their sighs, their body language, and through that stillness you see the truth. It's not about manipulation. It's about clarity, because once you see clearly you can choose wisely. So to the one watching this, right? Now thinking about that love you once gave everything to, what if the version of you who didn't react, who just observed, was actually your strongest self? And what if that's the version of you they miss now? 3. Discipline is your superpower. Have you ever loved someone so deeply, but deep down, you knew they weren't good for you? You knew it every time they canceled plans, every time they made you feel like you were asking for too much, just by wanting consistency. And still you stayed. You loved them harder. Not because you were weak, no, not at all. But because your heart didn't know how to let go without first giving everything. Now let me ask you this. What would have happened if you had chosen discipline over desire? That's what Marcus Aurelius would have done. He once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this and you will find strength. You see, discipline isn't just about waking up early or sticking to a routine. It's about choosing peace over chaos, even when your heart is begging you to run back to what broke you. It's about saying, "I miss you, but I love myself more. I remember the good times, but I refuse to relive the pain. I still care, but I won't chase." Let's be honest, how many of us have stayed too long? Answered that one last text, forgiven too quickly, just because we were addicted to the idea of them? But discipline, that quiet, often lonely strength, is the thing that saves us. It says, don't text them tonight. Don't look at their profile again. Don't go backwards just because the past feels familiar. There's a reason Marcus Aurelius ruled with such calm. He trained his heart to obey his mind. He felt pain but didn't let it lead. He wanted things but didn't let them control him. And you've already started that journey. The fact that you're here, watching this video, means you're ready to reclaim your power. Think about it. What if your greatest heartbreak wasn't a failure, but a lesson in discipline? What if that moment you finally stopped reaching out was the moment you took your life back? Because discipline doesn't always look like hard work. Sometimes it looks like sitting alone with your feelings and not letting them drive you back to pain. That's how you outsmart the world. That's how you protect your peace. So here's what I want you to do. Think about that one person you loved but had to walk away from. The one you still think about sometimes. Now take a deep breath and silently thank yourself for choosing discipline, for choosing you. If you've ever had to let go of someone you loved for the sake of your sanity, drop "I chose myself" in the comments. You're not alone. And the strength it took to walk away, that's the same strength Marcus wrote about. over 1800 years ago. And what's coming next in this video will make you realize your power was never in your pain. It was in the way you rose from it, disciplined, calm, and unshakable. Stay with me. First, embrace stillness to command respect. Have you ever been in love with someone who only noticed your worth when you stopped speaking, when you stopped explaining yourself, stopped chasing, stopped overgiving, and for the first time you just stood still? Not because you stopped caring, but because you finally cared for yourself more? Think about that moment, that exact day when you didn't reply right away. Did they notice? Did they hesitate before texting again? Did their tone change? It's strange, isn't it? How the very people who once overlooked your silence start leaning in when it's no longer desperate, but powerful. That's the kind of stillness Marcus Aurelius lived by. He said, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." He didn't mean to disappear into loneliness. He meant stillness is where you meet your true self. Because let's be honest, in love, most of us are trained to react. We panic when we don't get a reply. We overthink when the energy shifts. We explain. We chase. We talk ourselves in circles trying to fix things that were never meant to last. But stillness? Stillness is when you sit with the pain and don't let it command you. It's when you could call them but don't. When you could argue but stay silent. When you could beg, but instead you breathe. Not out of pride, but peace. Stillness is not the absence of feeling. It's the quiet declaration that you are enough, even when love is loud and messy and confusing. And here's the secret. Stillness commands respect, not because it's cold, but because it's clear. People start to see you differently when you stop trying to be seen, when you stop explaining what they should have already understood, when your silence says, "I know my worth. I don't need to prove it." And I'll bet right now someone from your past is still thinking about that version of you, the one who stopped texting first, the one who didn't beg for closure, the one who just became quiet, not out of weakness but strength. Stillness makes people reflect and sometimes regret. So I want you to remember this next time your heart feels loud and anxious. You don't need to react. You don't need to chase. You just need to be still. And in that stillness, the right people will find their way back to you or fall away without a fight. If you've ever found power in your silence, write "still but strong" in the comments. Let's show the world that quiet doesn't mean forgotten. It means fearless. And what I'm about to share next will take you even deeper into your power. So don't go anywhere. Detach to regain control. Have you ever loved someone so much that you started losing parts of yourself just to keep them close? You changed how you talked. You silenced your needs. You said "I'm okay" when deep down you were slowly falling apart. Just to keep the peace. Just to keep them. And one day you looked in the mirror and didn't even recognize who you were anymore. If you've ever been there, this part of the video is your story. Marcus Aurelius, the great Stoic emperor, once wrote, "The closer a man is to tranquility, the closer he is to power." But how do you find tranquility when love feels like war? The answer is this. You learn to detach. Now wait, don't confuse detachment with not caring. That's not what I'm saying. Detachment means, I still love you, but I love me more. I still feel everything, but I no longer let it control me. I can want you without needing to lose myself to have you. That's the secret. That's the quiet superpower most people never discover because they're too afraid of what detachment feels like at first. It's painful. It feels like letting go of the last string tying you to someone you thought you couldn't live without. But once that string breaks, you finally remember your own strength. Think about it. Maybe there was a time when you kept waiting for that person to come back, checking your phone, replaying conversations, blaming yourself, thinking, if I was just a little more patient, a little quieter, a little better, maybe they'd stay. But the moment you detached even just a little bit, you saw it clearly. You saw who they really were. You saw who you really were. You remembered that love should never cost you your identity. That's what Marcus Aurelius meant when he spoke of mastering your emotions. You don't let your heart drive the car. You let it sit beside you, but you keep your hands on the wheel. Because the more attached you are to outcomes, the more control you lose over your own peace. But the moment you say, whatever happens, I'll be okay. If they come back, good. If they don't, I'm still whole. That's the moment you win. So to the one watching this who's still holding on, What would it feel like to let go? Not of them, but of the need for them. To love freely, without gripping tightly? If you've ever had to let go for the sake of your sanity, write this in the comments. I let go to grow. Let's remind each other that detachment doesn't mean you don't feel, it means you finally heal. Speak less, mean more. Have you ever poured your heart out to someone you loved, and they just didn't get it? You wrote paragraphs, sent voice notes, maybe even cried in front of them, just to explain how much you cared. And they replied with, okay, or worse, silence. And in that silence, a part of you shattered. Not because they didn't feel something, but because your words, your honest, vulnerable words, meant more to you than they ever would to them. You ever been there? Then this story is yours. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be one." It's simple. Speak less, mean more. In love, we often think that the more we talk, the more they'll understand. That if we just explain it one more time, they'll finally see how much we love them. But the truth? Words don't always move people. Energy does. Action does. Silence does. Think back. That one time you didn't text first? That moment you stopped explaining, stopped begging, stopped proving your love? That silence. It said more than any paragraph ever could. You didn't ghost them. You just got tired of hearing yourself explain what your presence already showed. That's when they started noticing, didn't they? Because when you stop speaking, people have no choice but to listen differently. Marcus understood this deeply. He believed in the weight of presence. That one sentence, spoken with clarity, integrity, and emotion, can echo louder than 1,000 words said in desperation. So what if, instead of trying to be understood all the time, you just became undeniable? What if your actions were so rooted in self-respect, in calm, in love without attachment, that even your silence carried power? Let me tell you something. The right person won't need endless explanations. They'll feel your love in how you show up. They'll hear your heart, even when your mouth says nothing. And those who don't? They're not deaf. They're just not tuned to your frequency. And that's okay. So to you, the one who has said too much, tried too hard, loved too loudly, maybe now it's time to speak less. Not because you're hiding, but because your silence will be your statement. Say less, mean more. Let your energy walk into every room before your words do. Let your love be quiet but powerful. And if you've ever had to learn this lesson the hard way, drop "my silence speaks volumes" in the comments. You're not alone. You've said enough. Now it's time to be enough. 7. Control your reactions, not their actions. Have you ever been in a relationship where you tried to fix everything? They were distant, you got closer. They snapped at you, you softened your voice. They pulled away and you reached harder, thinking, if I just love them enough, maybe they'll come back. You weren't trying to control them out of manipulation. You were just scared. Scared of losing them. Scared of being abandoned again. Scared of feeling like you weren't enough. But here's the truth Marcus Aurelius would whisper to you in that moment. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. What he meant was simple but life-changing. You can't control their actions, but you can always control your reactions. And that's where the real power is. Because love isn't tested in moments of ease. It's tested in those moments. When someone says something hurtful, when they leave your message unread, when they cancel plans again, and you feel that flood of emotion inside you, the urge to yell, to cry, to chase, to fix. But what if, this time, you didn't? What if you sat with that feeling, breathed through it, and chose not to react? What if your strength wasn't in how quickly you responded, but how calmly you let go? Think back. Maybe there was a night you were up, staring at your phone, wondering, should I send one more message? Just one more? But something inside you stopped you. Not pride, wisdom. Because your peace mattered more than their attention. That moment? That was Marcus's lesson in action. Because when you stop trying to control what they do and start focusing on what you do, everything changes. You stop breaking your own heart trying to protect theirs. You stop begging for consistency from someone who doesn't know how to give it. You stop reacting to breadcrumbs and start waiting for full meals. Here's the part we forget. The person who controls your emotions controls you. And the moment you stop letting someone's mood decide your mood, you become unshakable. So I ask you now, who has that kind of power over you? Who are you still reacting to? Emotionally, mentally, silently? And more importantly, what would your life look like if you took that power back? If you've ever had to learn to stop reacting just to protect your peace, type in the comments. I choose peace over reaction because your power has never been in changing them. It's always been in mastering you. 8. Let go of what you can't control. Have you ever held on to someone so tightly, hoping that if you just loved them hard enough, they wouldn't leave? Have you ever looked at their eyes and felt them slowly drift? While you pretended everything was fine, you told yourself it's just a phase. They'll come back around. If I'm patient, if I give them space, if I stay, maybe they'll choose me again. But deep down you knew they were already slipping through your fingers. That helpless feeling, that quiet ache in your chest, that's what it feels like when you're trying to hold on to something you were never meant to control. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor who lost children, faced betrayals and buried those he loved most, said this: "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Let go of what you cannot control." And that includes people, their choices, their silence, their change of heart. Because the truth is, you could do everything right, and they still might leave. You could be loyal, soft, forgiving, available, and they still might choose someone else, or nothing at all. It's not fair, but it's real. And you know what hurts even more than heartbreak? The way we keep reliving it. Every time we wish we could go back and do something differently. We replay the memories, the way they held us, the late night calls, the small smiles that felt like forever. But none of that changes where they are now, or who you've become in their absence. Let me tell you something, soul to soul. You can't control who stays, but you can choose not to lose yourself when they go. You can't control if they love you back, but you can choose to keep loving yourself, even in the silence they left behind. And yes, it's okay to cry, to miss them, to ache for closure you may never get. But the moment you stop trying to control the story that ended is the moment you start writing a new one. One where you are the hero. One where peace finally outweighs the pain. One where letting go isn't weakness, it's wisdom. So I ask you, who or what are you still clinging to? An old conversation? A half-closed door? A version of someone who no longer exists? Maybe now, it's time to set it free. And if that feels scary, you're not alone. Drop this in the comments if you've ever had to let go of someone you still loved. I release what isn't mine to hold, because you were never meant to carry it forever. You were only meant to learn, love, and let go. 9. Accept what is, not what you wish. Have you ever caught yourself wishing for a love story that wasn't meant for you? Wishing they'd change? Wishing you'd said something different? Wishing they could love you the way you loved them? Maybe you still find yourself revisiting old memories, imagining a version of the past where they stayed, where everything turned out perfect. You replay the words they said, the way their hand fit in yours, how they kissed your forehead like it meant the world. But then in the quiet of your room, the reality hits. That version of the story doesn't exist. What you wanted, the way things should have been, wasn't reality. And no matter how many times you rewrite it in your head, it's still not true. But here's the thing. In that space between what you wished for and what is, that's where freedom is. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, once said, "Reject your sense of injury and the injury itself disappears." Let me break this down. He wasn't telling you to pretend things didn't hurt. He wasn't asking you to ignore your pain or act like it didn't matter. He was teaching you how to accept what is, so you stop fighting with reality. Because here's the hard truth. Wishing for a different reality won't make it come back. You can't change the past. You can't change their heart. And as painful as it is, sometimes you have to stop wishing and start accepting what is. Now I know that's easier said than done. I know you've dreamed of what could have been, of the perfect love that slipped through your fingers. Maybe you still wish they would text you. Maybe you still wonder if they ever think about you. But what if, just for a moment, you let go of the fantasy? What if you embrace the truth that what happened happened? What if you stopped waiting for a love that was never meant for you? When you do this, you stop living in the pain of what could have been and start living in the peace of what is. It's not easy. It's not a quick fix. But every time you accept reality, you free yourself from the chains of regret. I want you to think back on your own story for a moment. Have you ever wished someone would stay in your life when it was clear they had to leave? Have you ever clung to an image of them in your mind even when they were physically gone? What would it feel like to let that go? To let the memory of their laugh be just that, a memory. To let go of the hope that they'll come back and instead focus on what you can do for you right now. Because the truth is, when you stop wishing for the impossible, you start making space for the beautiful things that are meant for you. If you've ever struggled to accept reality over fantasy, leave a comment with, "I choose peace over fantasy." Because when you choose acceptance, you open yourself up to healing. And that's when your love story can finally begin again. 10. Love yourself first. Have you ever loved someone so deeply that you lost yourself in the process? I mean, truly lost yourself. Your dreams, your needs, your passions. You gave everything, thinking that the more you gave, the more love you'd receive in return. You put them first in every decision, every moment, every thought. And at the end of it all, you looked in the mirror and wondered, who am I without them? Maybe you've been there, standing in the wreckage of a love that consumed you. You loved them so much you became someone else entirely. Their happiness became your happiness. Their peace became your peace. Their pain became your pain. But here's something that might change everything for you. True love begins with loving yourself first. Marcus Aurelius, the wise Stoic who knew the pains of life, said, "Love yourself. For who else could you be more loyal to?" You see, it's not about being selfish. It's about being whole. When you love yourself fully, you stop sacrificing pieces of your soul for someone who isn't giving the same in return. You stop losing yourself in the hopes that they will become your source of fulfillment. You're the source. You always were. Think back for a second. Remember that one love that felt so deep? The one you believed would last forever? How did you feel when you gave so much and received so little? How many pieces of yourself did you give away, only to find that you had nothing left? Now imagine this. What if you'd put yourself first? What if in that relationship you'd known that your worth isn't defined by them? I know it's hard to even think about, but loving yourself doesn't mean closing your heart to others. It means filling your own cup, so that when love comes into your life, you have something to give, not out of need, but out of overflow. True love doesn't ask you to give up who you are. It asks you to be your most authentic self and love from that place of fullness. Can you remember a time when you truly felt whole just by being yourself? When you didn't need validation from anyone else? When you loved yourself enough to say, "I am enough as I am"? If you've ever had to rediscover your own worth after losing yourself in someone else's love, drop "I choose me first" in the comments. Let's remind ourselves that self-love is the first step toward all the love we want to share. Because here's the truth. If you can't love yourself first, no one else can love you the way you deserve. The most important relationship you'll ever have is the one with yourself. When you start to live in that truth, when you begin to build a love that doesn't depend on anyone else, it's like the world opens up. The love you've been searching for, the peace you've longed for, all starts with you. So here's to you, the person who deserves all the love in the world. The person who's worthy, not because of anyone else's approval, but because of your own. Why this matters in your relationships and love life too. Now, you might be thinking, how does all of this help in my love life or with people close to me? Well, here's the secret. The more you master your emotions, the less you become a slave to them. And that makes you attractive, magnetic, and powerful in every room. People are drawn to calm energy, to someone who listens, observes, and responds with clarity, not chaos. Whether you're in a relationship or looking for one, these principles make you the kind of person others respect deeply because you bring peace, not pressure. Imagine how much smoother your life becomes when you're no longer reacting emotionally, when you don't need to raise your voice, when your presence alone makes people take notice. That's how you outsmart everyone silently, without stress. And the best part? They'll never even know how you did it. If this resonated with you, if you felt a shift even slightly, then don't let it fade. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment with your favorite principle from Marcus Aurelius. And most importantly, watch this again when life gets noisy, because silence, when mastered, is the deadliest weapon. With that said, thanks for watching, and until next time.